All right, today we're diving into a story that could honestly change everything we think we know. We're looking at an object that flew through our solar system and completely baffled scientists. This isn't just about the official story of 3I/Atlas. This goes way deeper, into a theory that might just rewrite the definition of life itself. This whole thing is a journey into what happens when the official explanation just doesn't add up. It's about that moment when real critical thinking isn't about finding the easy answer, but about having the courage to face the facts that don't fit, no matter how wild the implications are. So picture this. It's 2025, and this thing from another star system pays us a visit. Officially, they called it a comet, just another chunk of ice and rock passing through. But the data, well, the data told a completely different story. A story of impossible physics, a bizarre chemical makeup, and a universe that might be far more alive than we ever dared to imagine.
So let's start with the official story. What were we told about this strange visitor from deep space?
Okay, so here's the official rap sheet. 3I/Atlas was spotted back on July 1st, 2025. It was only the third object we'd ever confirmed came from outside our solar system. It got slapped with the comet label, and we could see it was on a trajectory that was just passing through. The one really weird thing they noted was its composition. It had a ton of carbon dioxide ice compared to water ice. A little strange, sure, but, not impossible. But here's the thing. That neat little comet label, it started to unravel almost right away. The object just refused to behave like a comet, and every new piece of data we got only made the whole thing weirder.
Okay, let's really dig into the evidence because this is where the official story completely breaks down.
So what's the number one thing a comet does? It outgasses, right? It gets near the sun, the ice turns to gas, and you get that beautiful tail. Well, 3I/Atlas did the exact opposite. It started spouting water vapor when it was 3 times farther from the sun than we are, way out where the sunlight should have been way too weak to do anything. Then, as it got closer and hotter, the activity just fizzled. It barely changed at all. That doesn't just bend the rules of comet physics, it shatters them. And then there's what it was made of. I mean, this is just wild. Its chemical signature was completely backwards. Our instruments detected it was producing silver, which is incredibly rare out there, but at the same time there was no detectable iron, one of the most common elements in the entire universe. A natural object with that kind of makeup? It's basically unheard of. Now, you'd think, with an object this strange, we'd have our best gear pointed right at it, right? And we did. As it flew past Mars, we had multiple state-of-the-art orbiters from both NASA and the European Space Agency in the perfect spot to get a good look. And what did we get back? Reports that were described as empty, inconclusive. They even claimed they weren't sure it was bright enough to analyze properly. Seriously, with that kind of technology, it felt deeply suspicious. So let's just step back and look at what we've got. We have an object that moves wrong, is made of the wrong stuff, and all the official data is mysteriously thin. The standard comet model doesn't just fail to explain this, it completely falls apart. And this is where we have to make that intellectual leap. If it's not a natural object, and its lack of iron makes even our most advanced propulsion ideas seem unlikely, then we are forced to consider something else. Something far outside what we normally think of as science. And that leap takes us somewhere incredible, to a whole new way of thinking about life itself, a theory that actually starts with a fresh look at our very own sun. The whole theory rests on this idea called a plasmoid. Now, stay with me here. Basically, think of it as a self-contained, organized little blob of plasma and magnetic fields. But here's the radical part. What if these things aren't just weird physics? What if they're alive? And look, this isn't just pure speculation. There's a geophysicist, Stefan Burns, who's been watching the sun with these incredible new telescopes. And what he saw, well, he said the plasma structures he observed were strangely reminiscent of an amoeba exploring its environment. They seemed to be moving with intent, making choices, almost like they were curious. And this is the perfect way to think about it, really. For centuries, we looked at a drop of water and saw just water. Then the microscope came along and boom, revealed a hidden universe of microbial life. What if these new solar telescopes are our microscope for the cosmos? What if they're showing us that stars aren't just giant balls of burning gas, but are actually teeming with a completely different kind of life?
All right, so let's take this wild idea, this plasma organism theory, and apply it back to our mystery object, 3I/Atlas. What happens if we stop thinking about it as a rock and start thinking about it as a creature?
And suddenly, watch this, every single anomaly that made no sense, it just clicks into place. That weird motion, it's not drifting, it's navigation. It's a living thing swimming through space. That impossible composition of silver and no iron, that's not geology, it's biology, the unique needs of a plasma life form. And the vague, inconclusive data? Of course our instruments failed. They were built to scan a rock, not analyze a living creature. And its interaction with that burst of energy from the sun, that wasn't an accident, it was a feeding event.
So, if this theory holds, even a little bit, what does that mean for us, for our place in the cosmos? This is where it gets really profound. The implication is just staggering. It means life and consciousness might not be some freak accident that happened on our wet little planet. It could be a fundamental property of the universe, emerging from complex energy systems like stars. The universe isn't just a vast, empty space full of dead matter. It's alive. And maybe it's thinking.
The mystery of 3I/Atlas forced us to think way outside the box. And in doing so, we might have stumbled onto the greatest discovery of all, that we are not alone. Not because of aliens and spaceships, but because the cosmos itself is alive. It leaves us with one final, awe-inspiring question to chew on. What if we are the children of living, thinking, conscious stars?